Because there are a large number of people on the Zoom, I'm afraid we're going to keep you all muted just to keep things simple and to keep things ticking along. And the format of the evening will be, the first half hour will be presentations with slideshows, and then the second half hour will be an open Q&A, which I've offered to chair. So the way we're going to do that is we will ask you to put your questions in the chat box. Don't put your hand up. Don't use the hand button. If you can just sort of type your questions in, and I'll go through them and present the questions to the panel in the second half hour, and hopefully that will work well. We are limited on time, and there are a lot of people on the call as well. So we will finish promptly at 7. And after that, if you still have questions, you'll be able to email Emma Sumner at Grizedale Arts with further queries to be answered then. So I think that's probably the gist of it. I think we should just get on with the meat of the evening. And I'll start by introducing Adam Sutherland, who is the director of Grizedale Arts, who will give an overview of the project and where it's got to date.
I am Adam Sutherland. I'm the director of Grizedale Arts, and I live at Lawson Park, which some of you may know, on the east side of the lake, above Brantwood, and I run Grizedale Arts from there. And just for people that don't know too much about this project, Grizedale Arts is it's sort of I would say a community arts organisation. I will talk more about what we do, but just to give you a basic idea of the sort of day-to-day, we normally have volunteers here. We do projects all around the world. We run a residency program in Japan. We're busy, and we build sculptures, and we do quite a lot of complex projects with large numbers of people. So that's loosely me. I'll explain more why Grizedale is interested in this project, but just going to start off the presentation with an image of the Farmer's Arms. And how we got involved, I suppose. So we first came across, heard about the farm. I mean, obviously you see the building, an impressive building that it is, regularly, and noticed it was empty. But we first heard that there was a meeting being organised by Councillor Wharton in Spark Bridge, and we heard about that from John and Maria at Nibsthwaite, who we work closely with. And I went along to that meeting, and there were 70 people or so there. Obviously, an enormous amount of enthusiasm and interest and care about what was going to happen to this valuable valley resource, and problems about how that was going to be resolved. And so I kind of went away and thought a bit about it. And Grizedale at the moment we have been working very intensively locally with CONISTON and the CONISTON Institute, but in the last year, 2 years really, we've started to focus on the valley and try to bringing together some of the amazing rich culture, skills, people and resources of the valley. And it occurred to me really that the Farmer's Arms is the gateway to the valley. It's the gateway in a way to the West Coast. It's an amazing location to consolidate, bring together, profile all of the richness of the valley behind it, and in a way returns it to its some of its original function as an inn, as a point of entering and leaving the valley. So following that meeting, Councillor Wharton and the parish council were successful in having a CV, an asset of community value, placed on the site, on the buildings. That gives the community 6 months to pull together some kind of bid for to the vendor, and it means that no one else can buy it during that period. Now that period comes to an end on December the 18th. And we are looking now to find ways to achieve the purchase of the pub before, really, we need to find the money before the end of November, so 2 weeks. We talked to Ian and we were able to undertake a brief survey with Councillor Wharton's help of the response from the valley, from the community, as to what was wanted, what people were interested in. And based on that, we made an application to the Architectural Heritage Fund for a viability report. So we got some money for that, very grateful. And during this lockdown period, Emma Sumner has been working really intensively on it. We've all been working on it, actually. All the staff from Grizedale are very excited about it. Karen Guthrie, the head gardener, and Tom Phillipson, who's the craftsman, and Adam Hughes, who works here as groundsman. So we're all very interested in how we can progress this. The study allowed us to consult and look at lots of other models and talk to local businesses and find out kind of what went wrong, what people in the profession of running pubs and inns think is the best way forward, and look at the implications of Brexit and COVID as well. We also know that there are some competing offers out there, and I've had conversations with a couple of those. On the whole, most of the other offers are holding back to see what happens with the community bid, and certainly two of the people I've talked to, that is their preference, that it should be a community project, and in fact one of them is making a financial contribution to the project. So I should say at this stage that because of the way that ACV works, and there was a bid put in, we have made a bid, and it has been in principle accepted, and it was for 425. Emma will talk more about the implications of that later on. It hasn't been passed as yet by the Star Pubs and Bars, who are the owners, by Heineken. So the aims of the project are ambitious, what we're thinking about. Primarily, what people want to do is save the pub and save the inn for the community use, I suppose, largely, but also this great landmark and gateway. We're interested in creating a more hybrid version, diversifying really, and there's considerable support for that from the questionnaires that we've so far been able to put out. We see it connecting to the valley, so it is part of a bigger project that is valley-wide, and about the value of rural life and how that's promoted, how we translate and help visitors understand better and participate more fully in the real value of the place. And we want to use it as a point of connection with other communities from around the country, but also internationally. So some of the projects, a lot of the projects Grizedale works with are outside of the UK, and are usually small villages and rural context. So you're probably asking, why is an arts organisation going to be the best person to do this? And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the other things we've done, and I think kind of to provide you with some background, some context for that. We haven't run a pub, we're not professional publicans, but we have worked in a lot of areas that are close to the idea of running a pub. And we intend to set up an advisory committee. We've had a lot of advice already from professionals who've run both successful and unsuccessful pub businesses. So we're very open to this idea of the whole project growing quite organically and by demand. It isn't going to be us dictating what happens. It's going to be a process. So yeah, looking at the CONISTON Institute, we've been working with the village of CONISTON and the Institute for about 8 years, and it came through being invited by the committee of the Institute to help save the building, really, which was in a sort of pretty sorry state and not being used, and so to reinvigorate. And we did that through volunteer weekends, really. We, Grizedale and anybody that was staying with us volunteered, and we made big lunches and lots of people came, and we slowly scraped and mended and fixed and replaced and brought the building back to a usable state. And in its usable state, we were then able to develop a whole range of different uses for different parts of the building, a kind of diversification, and similar to a model I think that would apply to the farmers, to find alternative uses where there is interest and where there is need. So we did a lot of work with youth club. We set up a youth club for CONISTON, and that youth club were involved in all kinds of activity, commerce, enterprise, culture. This is a picture of them at Frieze Art Fair, selling a fizzy drink they made with a soda stream and some things they found in a hedge, I think. Some blackberries and various other things. And they made, over the weekend at Frieze's On, some massive art fair, they made about £1,000. So it's kind of micro enterprise. Other activity that Grizedale is involved in with the wider art world, which has a value, I think, for the farmers, in that it is a kind of PR exercise in some ways. And some images here on the left-hand side are the international projects. That one's actually, the top one's Borough Market, where we were commissioned by the Science Museum, and we were able to bring a project, a catering project that we ran in Coniston called Village Table. They were able to come and do the catering and cook some meals for like the Tate and various other rather grand things. And the image below it is an exhibition at Hauser and Worth that was put on a couple of years ago, which again included it was an exhibition about the rural, called The Land We Live In, The Land We Left Behind, and lots of local material in it. And that exhibition drew 45,000 visitors in the months of January and February in Somerset, in a relatively remote location. So I think it just demonstrates the potential for using art, and using that, I mean, it's a fairly broad, art in fairly broad terms, as an attractor, as a way of drawing people and interest and diversifying your audiences. The other images on that slide that we just moved on from are two local exhibitions with Audrey and Sheila, who we did a retrospective of their life's work, and Peter Hodgson, also a year before, we did a retrospective of his life's work. So kind of 40 years of making and craft, and how important that process was to them and the community around them, how craft had been used to create the community in a way. So another project that Grizedale's been working on for 10 years is Lawson Park, which was a complete ruin when we got it. And we have slowly brought that back to life. In effect, we've diversified a small holding, and we've built gardens, and we've developed the interiors, and we've created, in fact, a business there which is viable and works from that location. So I think it, in a way, perhaps indicates that the farmers are kind of a different kind of approach to the resources that are there and how they're used. So we do a lot of work with growing and food, and we've trialed a lot of different plants, a lot of different varieties of things that have worked. We've discovered things that grow very well. We're 600 feet above sea level, so it's a tricky place to grow anything. These are some images of actually some wild foods, so mushrooms, local mushrooms, and bracken. But we've also been growing wasabi, which grows very well, and tea. So these are all things that we feel could feed into the restaurant side of the offer at the farmers, but also into a horticulture and agricultural offer, and a diversification and an opportunity to experiment and try different things out. So here's some images of us trying different things out. There's the building on the top left-hand side is an architecture school we ran earlier this year. So kind of during the relaxed moment in the pandemic. And this was for a teaching garden at Nibthwaite, John and Maria's farm. And it was an outdoor classroom. And it was built over a week with 10 students and 3 architects. That's 2 architects, probably too many, but a very successful and enjoyable project, and a great result, which is immediately useful and in function. And of course, the way the economy there works is the students pay to come to do that. So in effect, the cost of producing that building was quite low. There's some more examples of other schools and other projects we've been working on in recent years. So looking at self-build and the interest there is locally in building your own house, looking at some of the problems around housing in the area and ways of solving that. And we think, again, the Farmers Arms could have this role as a teaching space, as a way of trying things out, experiments, and a little micro laboratory. So just move on to the Farmers Arms itself, and talk. I think that's enough about why we might be well placed to be able to deliver this, some of our experience and our tenacity. I would say Lawson Park is a really tough place. In some ways, the organisation has outgrown it. It's something of a bottleneck for us, and so we're interested in moving the operation that is Grizedale Arts to the Farmers Arms, and being able to expand that and bring in more people and expand on all the things we've been doing to date. So I just thought I'd talk you through the kind of practicalities of how this would work in year 1. So the first thing that we're going to focus on would be moving all the equipment from Lawson Park and the woodworking equipment into the space that is currently the large dining room. Yeah, there's an image of it there. So temporarily that will no longer be a dining space, but would be a workshop. And from that workshop, we will not only run courses, and allow and set up open access for people who want to use the machinery. We'll also be using that as the engine for driving the rest of the development. So we'll be working using that space to build and repair, do the necessary remedial works. That will be done largely in-house. So we have that capacity within our own existing staff, but we're also looking to employ initially 3 people, and I think by the end of the year 8. The staff flat, for people that know the building, is empty but perfectly usable and just needs to be furnished, and that would afford us some accommodation, which is always a tricky thing in the area, and there's always a need for it. So to be able to house staff is going to be a great advantage. And then the first part of the building that we'll reopen would be the stable bar. And we don't envisage there being a huge work involved in changing that. It's about tidying up, making it functional, and setting it up so that we can produce meals there, and drawing from the valley and the producers in the valley, food producers, to supply those meals. We're aiming at something that would be a farmhouse style home cooking rather than fine dining, or anything like that. So really reiterating what the farmers used to be. And in a way, this whole project looks at the origins of the Farmers Arms, and in its early days as an inn, when it would have been a much more diverse offer. And there would have been, apart from being able to stable horses and probably have probably a blacksmith and the grazing that goes with it, there would have been growing food for the hotel. So the second thing we would be looking at setting up would be the accommodation. There's quite a lot of work needs to happen in those rooms, but it's not impossible. And we'd be looking at the 5 rooms above the bar as the profitable area of the business, really. And then we would be hoping to open the shop as the next phase, which would be an honest shop like the one we were running at in CONISTON, and the CONISTON still runs, and offers local people the opportunity to sell their produce in a very direct way. But we'd also look at farmers market and possibly a vintage shop, so that there's an attraction there and a diversified reason to visit. And then we'd be looking at the group accommodation, which is the wing above where the spinning gallery is, behind the spinning gallery, and looking at family accommodation and group accommodation there, so slightly more towards the bunkhouse model. And that is to accommodate the demand that there is from groups that we already have, and many times we can't accommodate the groups that come. So we're very interested in housing more people to come and work at the farmers. So we currently have a week every month where we have all volunteers at Lawson Park. We'd move that to the Farmers Arms, and those volunteers, who would come from all over the world, would be contributing to the development and ideas and practical skills of the project. We would also very keen to open up to local volunteers and developing a local volunteer workforce, and which kind of brings me to Meg, who has volunteered for Grizedale on many occasions, many different ways. Meg is going to be making a significant financial contribution to the purchase, and yesterday I went around and from a distance filmed a few words from her, which I will end my presentation with. Take it away, Meg.
Local resident over many years here, but coming from an educational background of teacher training and other avenues of further education, it is with great relief and joy that I could see that the Farmers Arms would encapsulate many of the ideas that I've had time to think about, and hope that one day this time would come.
Thanks, Meg. So I'm going to now introduce Emma Sumner, who's been really amazing working on this project with extraordinary energy. We're very lucky to have her. She's got an extraordinary background, very wide range of experience, and she is buying a house in the area, and she's moving to nearby. Emma is an employee of Grizedale Arts, so although this would be her principal role, her principal project. The Valley project in general is her role for Grizedale Arts. So I think Emma's going to talk to us about the finance, and I will hand over to Emma.
Hello, I think I'm unmuted. Can you all hear me?
You're okay, I can hear you.
Just sort of worry then. Hi everybody, so my name's Emma. Adam, thank you for introducing me. I've been working on this project during, well, the past good long few months and during lockdown. And I was sort of made aware of the Farmers Arms before the public meeting that was held, because I talked to several people within the Valley as part of my role as project manager for the Valley, and been made aware about the Farmers Arms and the concerns around it. So when the public meeting took place, I was aware that it's probably something we should go along to and see what was happening. So I just wanted to quickly say that the plans that have been drawn up so far are kind of what we've worked out from a period of quite intense research, which has been done through a viability report, which was funded by the Architectural Heritage Fund. And this has gone through to work out how the most viable way of redeveloping this property would come around. So the figures that I'm going to outline now come from that viability report, and I'll explain how we've come to these figures and how it all kind of works together. But also, I think I just want to sort of say as well before we move on that this is we've sort of outlined a plan, but it's something, this is a building that can evolve with the community. So it's something that can change over time as well. It's not just about being a fixed model. It's what is most viable to get the place active and working for the community right now. Okay, so the total budget for purchase and refurbishment that we've come to is around £750,000. That's obviously a rounded up figure. I'm not going to give you the pennies. But that's the breakdown of that is that it's 425,000 plus VAT for the purchase price. Now that purchase price we have agreed in principle with the current vendors, and that figure has come from an independent valuation that was undertaken for us as part of that viability process. We have committed to contributing 25% of that purchase price from our own charity reserves. And we were looking through the viability process again, this is how we've come to this point, but looking at what's available at the moment and how we could fund the rest of the purchase, and also knowing what people had said from the survey that went out, that Councillor Wharton distributed, obviously knowing that some people did want to invest if this was to become a community hub. So what we looked at is that, knowing what the figures are on what normal community buyouts are, we realised that the amounts that would need to be raised were kind of a bit short of what people normally can raise through those kind of offers. So we looked at the possibility of taking out mortgage finance or other kind of social investment finance, which is what we would front that as Grizedale Arts, and then obviously invite investment from the community to help top that up. So that's kind of where we've got now with this, with the figure we're aiming for, obviously with social investment from the community through loan stock, which I'll explain in a minute, is around 300,000. So we already have some of that money in place. We've already had bids pledged, and obviously you heard from Meg just now, who's one of those people. But the cost of renovation, we've managed to find a way through the viability process and the way that we've worked with Grizedale in the past with projects like the CONISTON Institute and projects like the architecture school, is finding a way to kind of minimise those costs, but find a way to make it work that means that the community can get involved, learn skills at the same time, but also we bring the people in who want to learn skills, who contribute to the community and help to make, you know, the Crake Valley a better place to live and work for everybody, not just for those who live there, but for those who visit. Obviously, tourism is a key industry within the valley. So the packages that we've put together, we've got a donation level of a founding benefactor. We know that people, you know, when people invest, we want to say thank you. So nothing that we're asking for comes without any kind of benefit or perk to it. So the founding benefactor packages, there's 3 levels to it to try to make it affordable for all different kinds of people. So the 12, it's almost like a membership scheme. It's like you kind of basically committing to being a member of the Farmers Arms to help get it started. So for 12 months, you'll get, the first level, you get 12 months, 1 year of perks. The second level, you'll get 2 years of perks. And the third level, you'll get 3 years of perks. And that varies from free workshop places, discounts on accommodation or free accommodation nights, and tickets to events and things like that. The other investment that we've found is something that's worked for other organisations who've done similar offers. So obviously none of these packages have been developed without any kind of research behind them, which is what I've been looking into for the past few months. So the loan stock investor package is something that, it allows somebody to invest and to help support the project to get going. And what you get in return for your investment, you choose the terms of your investment as well. So it's flexible, it's open to everybody. And the way that it works is that you can choose a rate of return between 0 and 5% and a length between 5 and 10 years. The lower the rate of your return and the longer the term of your investment, obviously the more it supports the project. But, some of these percentage rates are obviously quite a bit better than high street banks at the moment due to what's been happening around the world. But, we want people to invest because they believe in the project rather than, the little annual rate of return is a little bit of an extra bonus. So obviously you get your money back at the end of the agreed period of investment, and should the project fail, which I don't believe it will because we've done such a huge amount of background research to make sure that we've worked out a way that this can work, you will get your money back. The other great thing about loan stock investment is that you also get tax relief. We've applied for loan stock investors to receive social investment tax relief as part of that. So investors can claim 30% of whatever they've invested against their sort of income tax liability for the current year or backdate it as well. Is again a kind of a bit of a way of showing how that kind of tax relief actually really boosts an investment in the project as well. These are all things that if you want to talk to me more about it and understand it a little bit more, I don't want to go on too long about it today because obviously I know that everybody wants to ask questions. These are things that you can contact me directly. My email address, by the way, is on the bottom of this email, so just in case you want to note that down now. But basically, I'll just close because I know that we're kind of getting to the point now of questions and answers, which Alistair, I'll leave you over to Alistair for that. But what I want to say is I've kind of done my best to try to reach out to everybody during the period of research that we've undertaken as much as I could and just try and kind of be able to consult the community. But I can't deny it's not been difficult with the kind of social distancing restrictions, and also, things like my house sale's been delayed due to that, which has not helped either, and the move has been delayed. So I want to say that if I haven't managed to reach you yet and you want to speak to me about this project and you want to talk and you want to find out more, or you want to know how you can contribute or get involved, please do email me. Also, I know Alistair's going to say this at the very end because I've asked him to, but I'm going to say it now. If we don't get through everybody's questions now, again, please just email them to me after this session. So I think I'm aware that we probably should be moving on now to the questions. So I'm going to ask Alistair to unmute himself and hand over to him.
Thank you, Emma. Thanks very much. And Adam as well. I should probably also, as a trustee, just reiterate that Grizedale Arts is a registered charity, which is focused on public benefit. So that is the role of the organisation. And I think hopefully I can now invite people to pose their questions or prepare questions. If you can do that in the group chat, that would be great, and then I can field them in priority order. So maybe whilst people are typing, I should probably also just say a big thank you again to everybody for coming. We do have quite a range of people here tonight, with 64 people on the call. Some are local, some are national, some are international, and there is an enormous amount of interest in this project. And I think there's interest from other communities and other organisations, and even obviously with me working in Manchester, there's a lot of interest in how communities can be galvanised around heritage assets and redevelop them on their own terms, rather than always sort of relying on somebody else to do it. So we're all kind of very eagerly watching this and keen to get involved and support it in any way we can. So I can see we're starting to get questions coming in now. So we've got one here, which is, who do you contact to invest in the project? Is that one for you, Emma?
I think it is, yes. So you contact me. So if you want to find out more about investing, you can get in contact with me. As I say, my email address is there at the bottom of the slides that I've just did, but obviously if you didn't catch it, we'll make sure I read it out at the end again. Oh, and Karen's just put it in the chat for us. So there you go. Great.
Okay. And then we have another question, complimenting on your presentation, Emma. And it says, exciting opportunity. What are the nature of the other offers? Is it more for the traditional pub? So I think that's the question, is what is am I right in saying this is a question about how will it work as a pub? Or how will it work in other ways?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if I get that, but yeah, the pub is a tradition, is going to be the traditional pub. We're not trying to change that model particularly. Hopefully we are able to do that very well, and we will bring in people to help us do that. It's not something we think we necessarily have the skills for. In terms of another offer on the site, that can happen as people come forward. I mean, we've got plenty of ideas. There's plenty of things that we can think of doing, particularly with the land, although that is under a grazing agreement at the moment. So that is something that have to be negotiated. But for example, if somebody came forward and wanted to run a hair salon in the building, or something of that nature, that's something we would think about. I think that kind of diversifying of what you would come to the place for is kind of interesting. And there are other models. It's not a unique idea or anything. There are other examples of that, with pubs reinventing themselves with a much more mixed offer. Something for children, events for children, things for people to do who aren't in the pub. So the pub is just one component, maybe a quarter of the total offer. The shop, the workshops, the outdoor activity, the recreation activity, live music, all of the other things that can come with it. But we're very focused on there being a lot of employment opportunity, developing employment, developing enterprise and enterprise culture. A lot of what we've been doing before. Very important, I think, at the moment, coming out of COVID, to try and find ways to generate employment. And I would imagine the project, as I think I said in the presentation, probably employing 8 people by the end of the first year. But in full flow, I would imagine more like 30 employees there, and really quite an operation running from the pub. But for the whole valley, I mean, connecting into the whole valley. So it's not like 30 people are working in the pub the whole time. It's spread out into the whole area and working with existing businesses and diversifying them.
Okay, great. And with that history of diversification of pubs in mind, the next question is a history question. When does the building date from? And is it listed, which would affect how much you could adapt it in the future?
Yeah, I might answer this actually. So as part of the viability report, we did contact the Heritage England and also the Lake District National Park, who are the planning authority, to discuss the proposed diversification, and neither had a problem, but it is grade 2 listed. So yeah, it is a listed building.
Okay.
After
And
listed.
next question is, what will happen to the existing base at Lawson Park?
So the idea with Lawson Park is that it becomes one of the resources of the valley alongside everything else. So we'll still use it. We will channel most of Grizedale Arts funds towards the project and the Valley project and the pub and the Farmers Arms, and Lawson Park will increasingly be generating income. So this year we've done quite a lot of work here to make it viable as a rental. So we'll still take volunteers here, we'll still host artists, and we'll still do a lot of the program we currently do, but we will also be generating income. So ideally Lawson Park becomes pretty much self-sufficient within a couple of years, and we think that's quite viable, and it's quite important, I think, in terms of the future for arts organizations, but all organizations really, so they find ways to make their offer functional and work financially.
Okay, next question is about the accommodation. Is the aim for it to be an artist B&B, or is it to attract more tourists, or a blend of both? And if it is a blend of both, how to keep the balance between the two?
So I think this is in a way a very good question, and it's a key component of the whole vision for the project. So Grizedale has this history of working intensely locally with CONISTON, and a longer history of working in a local context. It has its kind of arts component with lots of creative people coming and going, and it has its international program with all of the influence coming from places all over Europe and the rest of the world. And the dream is that all those three rather maybe competing cultures, or slightly uncomfortable sitting together, we find a way to make those three elements work together, and that from that we derive the dynamism and energy and ideas and creativity. It's that combination, but that means that each of those groups has in a way to be open to that process happening. And I think that, that's a really exciting, for me, that's a really exciting component. I've been trying to do it for the last 20 years with varying degrees of success. So this is another go at it. But no, I mean, I think the vision, is that combination of things. And I think visually, that's how the pub will look. It'll have a strong local element, but it'll also have hints at what else is going on. Even in the menus and the offer, the food offer will have hints of other places, other food, types of food. And I said earlier it would be around the farmhouse and the home food offer, but that can be a Japanese rural food offer. So there's a really interesting Japanese soup called nabe, which is a vegetables stew basically. So some things like that, it's not the kind of fancy high-end cuisine that restaurants would do. It's something that is really common to rural places. Every small village has its own soup.
Making me hungry. Next question is there a minimum or maximum for an individual's investment?
Shall I take that one?
Yeah.
So we've kind of, the way that we've structured the investment is just to help with the administration of the process. So there will always be chances to contribute and invest in the project, but just to help with the administration, because obviously dealing with a loan stock structure and ensuring that all your investors are able to get what they need, and the paperwork and everything. That's quite a lot of work. So we're looking for sort of higher level investment at the moment, but it is something that we couldn't open up to lower offers at a later date. But right now we are looking for sort of the 3,000 or above on that. The benefactor packages we put together to try to make sure that everybody had an opportunity to contribute at some sort of level. Those are obviously sort of the lower level, and again they've been sort of set. But then, you know, if you wanted to donate at a lower level than that, there is also the opportunity to do that via the PayPal portal that's on the website.
There've been quite a lot of donations of £10, £20, people just well wishers really on that through the website and the PayPal.
I'm going to jump temporarily to a related question in the queue, which is with the benefits associated to donations, why is it more advantageous to give 3 times 500 rather than give 1 times 2,000?
Somebody spotted a flaw.
There you go. Tackle that one.
I'm a bit confused by that, but I'll, you know, please email me afterwards and perhaps let me know what you mean, because I think I've tried to make sure that the packages are, you know, vary from different levels. So if you're talking about having 3 different lower level ones, or if you're talking about an investment of 2,000 at a higher level, I'm not fully sure how to answer that question.
Slightly complicated issue we can deal with
offline. I will. Please email me afterwards and let's talk. Definitely, because I'd love to know why. You know, to be able to sort you out with that.
And then it might be useful to share that answer with the group later on by email or through the newsletter or something as well, just to clarify that. Mm-hmm. Regarding the purchase, will fixtures and fittings be included? Will it be necessary to re-equip the bar, or will we be having to completely re-equip it?
Well, it's slightly like the Mary Celeste, the pub. Most of the equipment is there. There's a very heavily equipped kitchen, which I think we probably have to remove some equipment from. There's quite a lot of really lovely furniture, settles and cork cabinets and things like that. So yeah, it's largely in place. There are a few things that need perhaps upgrading. The pump systems are there. Yeah, it's not bad.
Okay, next question. Is there scope to revisit Bill Grant's original vision for Grizedale Arts in order to include music, or is this purely a visual arts project?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, I think that would be the dream, wouldn't it? It's sort of to try and bring this holistic, as Bill always used to say, this holistic approach to the whole valley. And I think the farmers can be a driver, an engine for that, because I think it needs to connect in with the village halls, and it needs to connect in with the existing programs, but to allow that to be better used in a way, because we've got there's an amazing body of resources here, amazing richness of culture, and in a way the difficulty is getting things to work together and making the most of those things. And in combination, we get more out of it. And I think a music program is definitely part of the offer. I'm not a music expert, but again, if there's a drive and there's people interested in doing that happened at the CONISTON Institute, where Sam Clark, who did a lot of work with us, he's taken on the music program there. There's a great program at Wateryeat. These things can all connect up, and I know Sam has been talking to Wateryeat. I think there's a potential for these things to make sense and work together. So
you get Ray Davis again. You get Ray Davis again.
Yeah, well, we do. Yeah, I mean, Grizedale has brought in a few interesting people, like Ray Davis did the school play a few years ago, and some other slightly more eccentric musicians have been involved, and we have done quite a lot with music. I say I'm not a music person. Different kind of music than perhaps people think.
I'm going to keep pushing through the questions because we're getting on in time wise. The next one is more of a comment to building dates from the 16th century and is grade 2 listed in 1971. I mean, it might be quite actually interesting through the project to look at the history of the area and unravel some of the sort of you know, kind of,
Yeah.
you know, history and so on, and the heritage of the valley. I'm interested in the food growing side of things. How much land is available, and what are the plans for it?
So there are 6 acres, one flat field and one field that's half flat and half sloped, and then quite a steeply sloping field. And then at the moment they're under a grazing agreement. So that's something that would need to be talked through with the current tenant to make some of or all of the land available to development and projects. But yeah, we're certainly very interested in an agricultural project there across that land, and that there's a whole host of ways in which that could happen, from, you know, individual projects and led by smaller groups or individuals to actually growing things for use in the building, in the pub. So yeah, we're keen to do that. We've got a lot of experience on that side of things. It was Grace, wasn't it? Grace has worked for us in the past up at Lawson Park. She knows what tough gardening is. But yeah, we're really excited about the potential there, and I think that's where the kind of diversification really starts, with the land and what we do with the land.
How many people can stay at a time?
Well, aiming the bunkhouse at 20, aren't we? That's what we're thinking. And then
it was more like
16.
I think it was more like 16. So 4
16, okay.
rooms of 4, so that they could be used by families. And then there'd be sort of 5 B&B accommodation bedrooms, potentially using an accessible bedroom downstairs, so making a disabled accessible bedroom downstairs. So that would be 6 B&B rooms. And then obviously the staff flat as well would be above that, but that would obviously be for more permanent sort of members of staff, either from the local.
I think it is quite dependent on demand as well.
Yeah.
And as the project evolves, there are flexible spaces like the current dining room, ballroom, that we're thinking will be a workshop. That workshop can be moved out. Then what that space is used for is very much, it will depend on what there is demand for and what people want to happen there. So we'll have a very open policy running to allow for ideas to come forward, and for meetings and discussion over how the pub's used and how it works. That would be our ambition anyway.
Okay, I think we're coming into the final furlong of questions time-wise, so I'm gonna prompt you for quick responses, quick fire round here. Will the open access workshop be run on a membership scheme?
Yes.
Both day membership and yearly membership, depending on how you want to use it. So yes.
Will the grade 2 listing inhibit your plans or increase building specification costs?
From what we've looked into so far, it doesn't look like it will inhibit anything, because we are looking to sensitively restore it rather than to actually make any significant changes. In the areas of the building which are listed, as I mentioned earlier, we have already contacted Heritage England and the Lake District National Park to kind of get an indication of what we were planning, if that would be okay within sort of a change of use.
Okay. How are you informing people of what your plans are? Are you relying on social media, or have you gone down other avenues?
Both. So I would say that because of COVID, there has been a reliance on social media. But what I have tried to do is to keep in contact with as many people as I can through the process. But sometimes I think reaching out into certain areas of the community, it has been a little bit reliant on sort of meeting people through other people. And obviously that's often through email, because I've not been able to sort of say to people, let's all kind of get together. So I think for me right now, if there's somebody that you feel that I haven't been in contact with, that I should be in contact with, please email me after this and please tell me. And if you know somebody who wants to know more and who wants to chat to me, please again tell them to get in touch. You're more than welcome. GDPR doesn't matter. You can give anybody my email address, so please do.
What sort of governance will be in place?
That's a good question, and one we haven't entirely fathomed yet. That is something that I think will evolve. The main ambition at the moment is to buy the property, because that's the thing. We can't get funds for it. None of the funders want to put money into purchase of a building and a new project, but people will put money into the running of it. So once the thing is secure, I think we can look at how what governance system is, how it's run, and under what governance system. And I think it is a very interesting area, and I think we will go through a consultation process there with all of the kind of user groups. Ideally, it would be a much flatter system than the one Grizedale has, which is a voluntary management committee, and then a director and so on. I think it would be more, I'd like to see it being more as autonomous groups that have representation on a committee that make decisions about the future of the building and how it progresses. So there would be within the structure the opportunity for smaller businesses and groups to have a voice in how the operation is run. But we've looked at a lot of different systems, and we've taken a lot of advice on that, but I don't think we've really come to a complete conclusion on it. I think it's a complicated one. So representation, advisory groups, all of those sorts of things would be in place. But equally, we don't want to end up in a massive discussion shop where people argue and discuss things long into the night, as I'm sure many of you will have experienced. I know I have.
Those good old housing.
It's finding ways of making it a functional system that's effective.
I'm conscious we're just on 7 o'clock, but I'm just going to rattle through just the last few questions if people are willing to, because I think it's important to get these things answered if we can. The next question I think you've just answered, and the question is: is the project in jeopardy if you don't raise a specific sum by the December date? That's an important question, I think.
Yeah, that is an important question, which we have discussed a few times. The issues around that, so the 750 figure is the kind of the dream, and there's scaling down. The bottom line is that the building will cost to purchase at the end by December the 18th 510. That's what we need to raise. And we, as Emma's identified, we're a long way into that. We're not looking for a huge amount more to get to that point. But the less money we raise from the community, the more at threat the project will be in its running phase, because the more money will be going into servicing loans. So that community component is really important. I think if we can make 150, 200,000 there from the community, then that makes the project really viable. There are a number of things that make the project easier for financially, things like the fact that Grizedale is a charity, and there's a rates. The council charge charities 20% of their normal rates, so that makes a huge difference. But yeah, I guess it's at risk, and there's a point where Grizedale Arts Board is going to have to make a decision about whether they can take that risk. So if we don't raise very much money, there's a good chance that Grizedale Arts will go, we're too exposed, and we won't take the risk of borrowing that amount of money. So yeah. And if it doesn't happen, yeah, we have to give everybody their money back. But if it doesn't happen, the Valley project is still going to happen. That is part, that's what we're working on at the moment. So some of what I've talked about and what we're trying to do can still happen. But I just think this is an amazing, kind of once in a lifetime opportunity, coming at this really difficult time. Offering the chance for people to come together and make it work, and we're well on the way. We've got about 70,000. It's pretty good. and we've got 2 weeks to go.
But that's
It's not, in terms of what we're asking, it's not a bad offer, because we're not just asking you to give money, we're asking for you to invest in it. There's a return. You know, one person could probably do it on their own quite easily. So, but you know, it's good if lots of people are involved. It's really heartening to see so many people coming to this meeting. I was worried at one point we wouldn't have enough people to make it worthwhile, but you know, we've kind of been overwhelmed. So brilliant.
Yeah, well, it's just gone 7, so I think we'll probably stop the questions there if that's okay. There are lots of very helpful and complimentary comments in the chat box coming there, so I think we can save all those comments, and I think the main thing is to keep in touch with people about this. And from my perspective, I think
full time on this for the next 2 weeks, so I'm as available as Emma is. Info at Grizedale gets to me or Adam. I'm happy to talk to people on the phone, Zoom, whatever.
Yeah, so and I think you know, I think from everyone's perspective, the chance to create something that works in such an exciting way for all the kind of, you know, the people living in the valley, and for that has much wider interest as well. I mean, it was quite funny. I was even watching last night the new BBC series on saving the British pub actually revealed the role that they play in in communities, and you know, incredibly relevant, also incredibly optimistic. And I think the same is for cultural organizations as well, that they are also finding new ways to work, and especially after COVID and lockdown and everything else we're going through, the opportunities for all these things to mix together in a new way, this could be kind of well ahead of the game. So very exciting. And thank you, Adam and Emma, from all the trustees, for putting so much legwork and hard graft into preparing this in a really short space of time. It is very exciting, and I'm sure we'll achieve it somehow. But I also just want to say a huge thank you for everybody coming tonight to join in and show interest in this project. It just shows the appetite for it and the interest, and let's grow that. I mean, if this was actually a community meeting in the village, we'd all be going to the Farmer's Arms to talk about it afterwards over a pint, but sadly not on this occasion, but maybe next time. So with that, I think we'll wrap proceedings up, and just bid you all a happy weekend, and please do stay in touch and get involved in any way you can, large or small.
Yeah, please feel free to contact me anytime. You've all got my email address, please do, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.